come bounding out of my stereo speakers if I have my eyes open. They are like, they're elfin embodiments of syntactical intent. Somehow syntax, which is normally the invisible architecture behind language, has moved into the foreground. And you can see it. I mean, it's doing calisthenics and acrobatics in front of you. It's crawling all over you. And what's happened is that your categories have been scrambled or something, and this thing which is normally supposed to be invisible and in the background and an abstraction has come forward and is doing handsprings right in front of you. And the thing makes linguistic objects. It sheds syntactical objectification so that it comes toward you. They come toward you, they divide, they merge, they're bounding, they're screaming, they're squeaking, and they hold out objects which they sing into existence or which they pull out of some other place. And these things are like jewels and lights, but also like consomme and old farts and yesterday and high speed. In other words, they are made of juxtapositions of qualities that are impossible in three-dimensional space. What they're like is, and in fact this is probably what they are, what they're like 3 and 4 and 5-dimensional puns. And you know how the pleasure of a pun lies in the fact that it's not that the meaning flickers from A to B, it's that it's simultaneously A and B, and when the pun is really funny, it's an A, B, C, D pun, and it's simultaneously all these things. Well, that quality, which in our experience can only occur to an acoustical output or a glyph, which stands for an acoustical output, in other words, a printed pun, in the DMT world, objects can do this. Objects can simultaneously manifest more than one nature at once. And like a pun, the result is always funny. It's amusing. You cannot help but be delighted by this thing doing this thing. Well, so these syntactical animals or these linguistic elves are pulling this stuff out and gesturing with it, pushing it in your face, saying, look at this, and you are fascinated, pulled into it, because each one is, what? How can this be happening? It's not, we're not in the world anymore. We're not in the world. No artist, however gifted, could make one of these objects because they have qualities, extremely difficult to language qualities that no object in this world has. And so you're trying to wrap your mind and say, my God, what is it? Because in spite of the fact that it's just a little thing, you can tell by looking at it that its implications are earth-shaking. In other words, that if I could suddenly pull one of these things out of hyperspace and we would all look at it, we would all realize that that was the ball game right there. That somehow this proved it, was it, did it, ended it, started it, made it clear. How can this be? Well, I don't know. You had to be there, sort of. And then what lies behind this, or as you try to analyze the situation, you realize that these objects that these things are making are made by utterances. That sound is how this trick is done. And meanwhile, these things are saying or beaming at you. The general vibe is, strangely enough, do not give way to astonishment. Do not abandon yourself to wonder. Get a grip. Try to get a grip and notice what we're doing. pay attention. This is the mantra. Pay attention. Pay attention. Well, somebody once asked me, is it dangerous? And the answer is only if you fear death by astonishment. But death by astonishment is entirely possible. I'm not kidding. I mean, you are so fucking astonished that you've never felt your astonishment circuits get a workout like that before. I mean, what is astonishment in this world? It's like, this is a different form of astonishment. This is, So, and then the whole notion that's being pushed here is do this thing, do this activity, do as we do. And you can sort of feel your intentionality or your inner something or other reorganizing, and there's this like heat. It's quite akin to heartburn. I won't metaphysicize it, but heat in your stomach, and it just moves up, and then your mouth flies open, and this stuff comes out, which is a very highly articulated, syntactically controlled, non-English, non-European language behavior of some sort. Not, strictly speaking, though I call it glossolalia, it strictly speaking is not glossolalia. Glossolalia has been carefully studied, and it's a trance-like state. On the floors of these Pentecostal churches in Guatemala, they measured pools of saliva 16 inches across from people who were in ecstatic glossolalia. This is much more conscious, much more controlled. It's almost like a kind of spontaneous singing, but your mind steps aside and this linguistic stuff comes out and you can see it. That's the amazing thing. It is not to be heard even though it is carried as an acoustical signal. Its meaning resides in what happens to it when the acoustical signal is processed by the visual cortex. That's the important thing. It is a new kind of language. It's a visible, three-dimensional language. It's not something I ever heard about or any mystical tradition I ever heard about anticipated. But it's as though the process or the project of language, which according to academic linguists began no more than 50,000 years ago, the process of doing language in us is not yet finished. And this thing we do with small mouth noises and each of us consulting our own learned dictionary and quickly decoding each other's intent, this is a stumble bum, cobbled together, half-assed way to do language. And what we're on the brink of, or what these psychedelic states seem to hold out, is a much more seamless kind of fusion of minds by generating topological manifolds that we look at rather than that we localize into designated meaning. And I didn't mention ayahuasca in this rap, but ayahuasca being along with the mushrooms, a natural and shamanically used for many millennia doorway into these places. And what you find in ayahuasca groups in the upriver tribal situation is people that the whole way the ayahuasca taking is set up is to facilitate singing. The shamans get loaded, then they sing, then they go outside and take a leak and smoke and talk. And in those intervals you hear people say things like, I liked the violet and yellow part, but I thought the olive drab with the silver spattering was way over the top. And you think, what kind of a critique of a song is that? Well, it's the critique of a song that is designed to be looked at.